Welcome. In this particular lecture, we are going to talk about advanced features on FCP. Amongst them, we are going to deal with color correction and chroma keying in this particular lecture. Let us get into color correction. Final Cut Pro is a software meant for editing video. This is a software not meant for color grading or color correction. We have softwares like Color, DaVinci Resolve, Baselight, which can do color correction. But FCP offers you certain tools with which you can correct the colors, and you can present this video with an amount of color correction which makes your video look smooth and seamless. So we'll see how these color correction filters works. In this particular timeline, we have a few shots and in the middle we have a shot like this. When we are doing color correction, we usually mean that we are working on two layers. One is the luma layer and another one is the chroma. That is, we correct the brightness of the video and we also correct the color of the video. There are filters which can correct your color and there are filters which can enhance the color that you want. In this particular shot, we have a sky which is almost white and we can't see the details in that sky area, although the face is more or less fine. Color correction filter is found under Effects, Video Filters, Color Correction and Color Correction 3-way. The advantage of using the color correction filter, the 3-way color corrector, is that first of all, it's a real-time corrector, so you don't need to render every time you do a correction on the clip. And secondly, it gives you the manipulating features that will take care of the color correction and the luma correction. So we will figure out how to work with the 3-way color corrector. We click here and we double click on the clip and we get the color corrector filter under Filters. You can also get this color corrector under Effects. Under Effects, you go to Video Filters and you go to Color Correction, and this is your 3-way color corrector. Now come to the Filters tab. Here, if you click on the visuals, you will get 3 wheels. The color corrector filter, the 3-way color corrector filter, has 3 wheels on it. The first wheel is the black wheel, this is the black wheel, this is the mids, and this is the whites. This wheel deals with the color, these 3, and the slider deals with the luma adjustments. When we manipulate anything within this wheel, this will only affect the black area of the image, that is the shadow area of the image. When we manipulate anything in the mids, this will only manipulate or change colors within the mid zone. And finally, when we manipulate anything on the third wheel, it will only change the color and the luma on the white area. We have a slider which is for the saturation. Saturation is the level of color that you have on the video signal. So if you increase the saturation slider, it will increase the level of color information that the signal is carrying. For color correcting, we have a particular arrangement of windows which is already set by FCP. So we go to Window and we arrange for color correction. Once we do it, we have the timeline here and there is a new window that comes up. This is called the video scope window, which has got a vector scope in it, a histogram in it, a waveform monitor and an RGB parade. For color correction in this particular module, we will deal with vector scope and the waveform monitor, and in some cases we'll also refer to the histogram. In this particular image, see, this is the histogram that we are getting. This is white, this area is white, and this area is black. So with this histogram, we can figure out that in this particular image, that is this face and the sky all put together, the image has excessive white in it, that is, it's showing red here, and the image does not have proper blacks, that is, it does not have blacks in this area. So we'll correct that. I go to the filter, I double click, this opens the filter for me. I go to the color corrector 3-way tab, and this opens the wheel for me, and I start changing the whites. As I click on this, yeah, see, the histogram now changes, and I do not have any information on the red zone. So everything comes within my limited area, that is within my 100% white area. Okay, if I refer to the waveform monitor here, you will get a line which is called the 0 line or the black line, and you will get another line which is called the 100 line or the white line. Your video signal should be placed within the 0 and the 100 limit. Anything beyond 0 will be black, which is not legal as far as video signals are concerned, and anything beyond wide, which is called super wide, is not allowed for broadcast. So it is recommended that you should have your levels below that white line, which is here. Okay, so I reduce the white, and this is only going to affect this area of my image. Now the signal is legal, that is, the signal is broadcastable. I can use this signal. The rest is your aesthetic judgment. Whatever you want to do after this will depend on what you actually want in terms of color, in terms of saturation, in terms of the black or the whites. Now I think the white is too white for me, so I reduce the white further. So I reduce it, and this is also affecting my mids. The mid zones are here. So I reduce the white and I increase a little in the mid zone. I reduce the white further and I increase the mid zone as long as it can tolerate. Okay, great. So this is where I have reached. After this, after doing this manipulation, I may find that the image is looking a little more colorful than I want. In that case, I can go to the saturation slider and reduce the saturation of my image. Great. So this is what I want in my image. So this is the first level of correction that you can do. In the next level, let's go to a shot like this. This is the shot of a temple. The temple looks fine, but the sky which is behind the temple is not looking right for me. I want a little blue on the skies, as in I want the sky to be a little bluish. So what I have to do is I have to select this, go to effects, get video filters, go to color correction and click on color corrector 3-way. As soon as I do it, I double click and the filter opens here. See, the color corrector 3-way tab is already open. Now what I want to do is I want to make the sky look a little more bluish. In this case, I will use the limit effect option, which is here. You have a small arrow here. You open this and it opens the limit effect option. That is, it is going to affect the limit of the color corrector to the section I select. In this case, I want the effect on the whites only. So I select the luma and I select the zone which is only the whites, like this, and I add blue here. And I reduce the whites. Remember, this is not going to affect my temple because my temple is comfortably placed within the blacks and the mid zones. So this is only going to affect the sky area. Now here I have the temple shot with the sky, which is very blue in nature. Aesthetically, if this is fine with me, then I can go along with this shot. Now let's see the change that has happened. I double click on this shot, go to the color corrector filter, and this is where you can bypass the filter. So I click here. This was my original shot, and this is the shot after the correction. See, only the sky has changed. The temple is what it was. Let's see another shot where we will work with the limit effect option of the three-way color corrector filter. Let's take this shot. This is a nice face and we have a lot of colors here. Let's imagine that we want a shot that where I only have the color green and the rest is black and white. You have seen this treatment in a number of films. So let's see how we can do it on FCP itself. Here I have the image where I see red, I see white, I see green, and I see yellow in these areas. Let's take the color green. Let's make a shot where I only have the color green and all the colors like yellow and red will go as black and white. It's the same process. I click on effects and I use the color corrector. I double click on the clip and this opens the color corrector for me. I open the limit effect option. Here I want to limit the effect of green. That is, I want to work with green. So I take the eyedropper and select the color green. Obviously, I have other green areas too. In that case, I can press Shift and click any other zone of green and add the color here. Okay, and I can stretch the green. Okay, so this selects the color. To see what I have selected, I can click on the matte. The matte, like any other photo editing software, gives me the effect, the area of the image where the effect is actually getting applied. So if I select the matte, I can figure out that this is the green that I've selected. If I want more, I can select more of the Luma range, and if I want a little more of the saturation to come in, I can select more. Okay, great. Now let's disable the mask. Now this is only going to affect the green. If the saturation and everything is fine with me, I go to the invert button. Invert selection actually does an inversion of the existing effect. In this case, I am limiting the effect of green. If I select invert selection, it will select all the colors except green. What I want is, I want to leave green and I want to put all other colors into black and white. So I select the invert tool and I reduce the saturation to 0. See, without the invert tool, only the greens are getting into black and white. If I select the invert tool, it will only leave the green and the rest will be black and white. Now the work is not complete. I go to the matte again and I want to select more. Let's start with the color. Let's add more green to the selection. Let's add a little on the black zone. of the luma range and a little more on the saturation. This is too much, and I add smoothing, and let's do a little with edge thinning. Okay, now let's come back to the image. Yes. Here I only see green and the rest is black and white. After this, let's do a correction in terms of color. Let's go to a shot where, let's take this example. Here I have a shot which is very yellow, and I may not want this yellow on my image. This mask, the mask that this person is holding, is actually white in color. Because of the tungsten light, it's appearing yellow. So to correct this, I need to do the same thing. I select the clip, go to effects and add the color corrector filter. I double click and I have the color corrector here. Okay. Here, if you see the histogram, you will find that you do not have information on the white area. Most of the image is black and it has a number of midtones. So in that case, there is no point working with the white wheel. I start with the mid zone. I start pushing the color towards blue. Then I reduce the saturation a little. And finally, I also push the whites a little towards blue, as long as it's fine. And I also push the mid luma level. Now a little adjustment here so that it doesn't go towards the blue zone, and this is somewhat what you can achieve. Okay, let's see the difference now. This was my original shot, which is highly saturated and yellow, and from there I made this a little subtle, a little whitish and less saturated. The next effect that we are going to talk about is the chroma key effect. Chroma keys are like images that are shot like this, where we have a blue or a green screen behind a character. The reason for choosing blue and green is that these are the only two colors which are far away from the skin tone of human bodies. So if we are shooting a character, which in most cases are human beings, we can easily take that color out of that image and we can replace that area with a new image. In most cases, in case of news anchoring, in case of television shows, we often use chroma screens. So let's see how to deal with chroma screens on FCP. Here we have a character saying certain things in front of a blue screen. What we need to do is we need to take this blue color out of this image so that the image which is placed behind or below this layer, which is this, is visible. Okay, so let's keep the second layer under this and let's start working on the chroma key. We go to effects, go to video filters and we go to key and we have chroma keyer. One thing that I want to mention here is that the name of the filters which appear in bold are real-time filters, which means that if you are using these filters, you don't need to render and see what is happening. If you are using the filters which are not marked as bold, you have to render every time you want to see the effect of those filters on the shots. Chroma keyer is a real-time filter and that is why it is bold. So let's take the chroma filter double click, and it opens the chroma key tab. This is the tab. Great. Now I want to exclude the color green. Let's select the eyedropper, select the color first, and I see it selects nothing. I press shift and I select more areas on this. Great. Now I stretch the color to get in more blue. I increase the saturation zone and I also increase the luma zone. Great. Now let's start with 0, and if I do a little bit of edge thinning, it will smoothen it. I can increase more of this. Okay. In this particular key out, I see that the borders are not working properly, as in I can see the blue curtain behind and there's a halo that is coming in which is not looking right. For this, I need to go to the color corrector filter before I apply the chroma keyer. So let's go to the color correction filter. I select the shot, I click on effects, and I go to video filters, color correction, and the three-way color corrector. Let's go to the filters tab here. Here I have the chroma keyer and I have the color corrector filter. In this case, please understand that the filters that you have one after the other works in an additive nature. That is, if I have the color corrector filter and the chroma keyer filter after that, it means the color corrector filter will work first and then the chroma keyer will work on the worked on shot. That is, after the color corrector has worked on that shot. The reverse will also happen. If I have the color keyer first, then the color corrector, this will mean the color keyer will work first and then the color correction filter will work. Here what we need to do is, here we want to color correct first and then add the color keyer. So we will just drag the color corrector filter to the top. We will drag the color corrector filter to the top and open the color corrector and add a little saturation to it and reduce the blue. I'm intentionally increasing the red color on this image so that the blue is now separated from the common zones. Now let's go back to the chroma keyer. Again, let's increase the blue zone, increase the saturation and the luma. And finally, I use a little bit of softening. Great. Now, see, I have this as a transparent layer, but this was shot in front of a blue screen. But the blue screen is completely out and I have this layer as a transparent layer. So I can move it and I can place it anywhere I want. Let's place it here. I have this like an anchor and I have this border here which I can eliminate. I'll just double click on this image, go to my motion tab, go to the crop, and I will crop it from the right. Great. Now the border is gone. So I have this image on the other image. This is how you do chroma keying. Chroma keying involves a little bit of specializations in terms of color and how you manage color. If you want to eliminate a particular color, you have to think about the colors which are placed near that color. Say for example, if I want to chroma key a person standing in front of a green screen, I can't afford that person to wear shirts which are green in color or any color which is near the color green. So make sure that these things are taken care of before you do chroma keying shooting. We come to the end of this part of the lecture. In the next lecture, we are going to figure out how to do an export of your timeline either onto some other format, or if you want to take this particular timeline onto some other software through EDLs and XMLs. We will also look into the basic shortcuts that you need to know to work on FCP.